So think about this. If you break your arm, an X-ray gives you a really clean binary answer, right?
Right. Yeah. You literally see the break.
Exactly. You look at the film, you see the jagged white line, and the doctor just points to it. Broken. The path forward is completely
Wonder
obvious.
you get a cast.
Yeah. But when your mental health is struggling, there is no X-ray. I mean, you're just sort of driving through life with this internal check engine light glaring in your face.
That is honestly such a perfect way to describe it.
Right, you see glowing orange, you feel the engine rattling, but you have, like, no idea what's actually wrong,
Yeah.
or how much it's going to cost to fix, or if it's even safe to just pull over and look under the hood.
And that ambiguity is really the defining paralysis of our healthcare system, you know? People will spend years just staring at that light.
Oh, yeah.
They try to convince themselves it's just a faulty sensor simply because the actual process of taking the mind into the shop, so to speak, feels entirely overwhelming.
Well, today we are taking a deep dive into a masterclass on how to fix that exact engine. We've got this fascinating, highly specific piece of text we're unpacking.
Yeah, it's really interesting material.
It's a promotional outline and honestly kind of a manifesto for a Georgia-based telehealth therapy practice. They're called Coping and Healing Counseling, or CHC.
Right.
And our mission for this deep dive is to really look at how this single document systematically identifies, targets, and then just completely dismantles the barriers between you and the help you need.
I mean, you can really think of this source material as a blueprint for accessible care.
Yeah.
Whether you are, actively looking for support right now, or maybe you're trying to navigate the whole maze of healthcare for a family member.
Which is a nightmare in itself.
Oh, absolutely. Or even if you're just curious about how modern communication tries to bridge that gap between human hesitation and actual medical intervention, this text is just a fantastic case study in removing friction.
Definitely. And what's immediately striking to me is that it absolutely refuses to start with clinical intervention.
Right. It doesn't lead with the heavy stuff.
No, not at all. There's no list of scary disorders. There is zero heavy medical terminology. The text actually starts by echoing your own private, unvoiced doubts.
It's very intimate, yeah.
It literally calls out your internal monologue right at the top. It says, maybe I should talk to someone. Maybe therapy would help. Maybe things don't have to feel this hard forever.
And skipping those clinical definitions to focus on emotional hesitation, that is a profoundly effective way to open a medical conversation.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, the traditional model usually dictates that the doctor holds all the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And you are just there to receive a label.
Right, like, tell me what's wrong with me.
Exactly. But by leading with the word maybe, the text acknowledges the imposter syndrome of mental health.
Oh, wow. Imposter syndrome of mental health. I like that.
Yeah, it's that creeping feeling that, perhaps your struggles just aren't severe enough to actually warrant professional attention.
Okay, let's really unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
Because before we even get to the logistical solutions that CHC offers, like the locations, the costs, the experts, we have to look at how they address this mental starting line, the maybe phase.
The hardest part, really.
It is.
Yeah.
Because we all do this, don't we? We rationalize our pain. We tell ourselves that, oh, other people have it so much worse.
Right. Or that feeling exhausted all the time is just, well, it's just what being an adult is.
Exactly. We just keep driving with that check engine light on, hoping it magically turns off by next Tuesday.
And the text capitalizes on the exact cycle of rationalization, but it actually doesn't let the reader off the hook.
No, it really calls you out.
It does. It follows those lingering maybe statements with this really direct, unavoidable assertion. It tells the reader, you already know the answer. You've known for a while.
I mean, that feels like someone is reading your diary.
It really does.
But it brings up such a crucial question. Why is this psychological distance between, knowing the answer internally and actually picking up the phone to get help? Why is that gap so vast for most of us?
Well, consider what society has trained us to believe about therapy, right?
Okay.
Entering a therapist's office has historically been framed as this profound personal crisis, like a confession of failure or the terrifying unearthing of a deep psychological flaw.
Right. It's portrayed as this really dramatic, heavy thing.
Exactly. So by simply stating, you already know the answer, the text totally flips that narrative. It reframes seeking help.
Yeah, normalizes it.
Right. It's no longer this terrifying leap into the unknown. It's simply granting yourself permission to validate a gut instinct you've already had for months, maybe even years.
Right. It's telling you that you aren't crazy for thinking you need a lifeline. You are actually correct. You're an accurate judge of your own reality.
which is incredibly empowering.
Totally. But, okay, let's say you finally accept that intuition. You win the mental battle. Historically, the immediate punishment for winning that internal battle is stepping right into the logistical nightmare of the healthcare system.
The dreaded "where do I even go" phase.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the source material provides a radical answer here by completely erasing geography from the equation.
And geography is, frankly, often where the absolute best intentions to seek care just go to die.
Seriously, the commute, the traffic.
Yeah, taking time off work, finding parking, those are the physical roadblocks that just completely kill any momentum you had.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The text explicitly states that CHC serves all 159 Georgia counties. And they can do this because the practice is 100% telehealth and completely high PA compliant.
Which is huge.
It is, because for anyone who doesn't know Georgia, 159 counties represents a massively complex landscape.
Oh, for sure. Very diverse.
Right? You have these dense, gridlocked urban centers like Atlanta, where, trying to drive 5 miles across town for a 4:00 p.m. appointment is literally going to take you an hour.
At least an hour, yeah.
Right. And then you have highly remote rural towns in the Appalachian North or the deep south of the state where the nearest grocery store is a 20-minute drive, let alone finding a specialized mental health clinic.
And that kind of statewide telehealth coverage addresses both of those extremes, right? It hits urban density, the friction of time and traffic and rural scarcity, the friction of sheer distance.
But wait, I have to push back here a little bit. The source text mentions a team of over 15 therapists.
Yeah.
15 therapists for 159 counties. That actually sounds like a massive bottleneck waiting to happen. Like, if I'm sitting in a rural town, am I just trading an empty local waiting room for a crowded digital waitlist?
I get why you'd think that. It sounds totally counterintuitive, but the math actually works in the patient's favor when you decouple the provider from a physical zip code.
Really? How so?
Think of traditional therapy kind of like shopping for shoes in a really small rural town.
Okay, I'm tracking.
You have exactly one store. If they don't have your size, or if the one single style they carry doesn't fit your foot, you either walk out barefoot or you just squeeze into something painful.
That sounds miserable.
Right. But telehealth opens up a statewide warehouse. It vastly expands your clinical dating pool, essentially.
Clinical dating pool. I like
Yeah, it means those 15 specialists are distributed purely based on need and schedule, rather than just who happens to live within a 30-mile driving radius of their physical office.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But what about the environment itself? Because a 100% telehealth model means the therapy room isn't a quiet, curated office with, a white noise machine outside the door.
Right, the setting changes completely.
It's a corner of your own house or your bedroom, maybe even sitting in your parked car during a lunch break. Doesn't that fundamentally change the intimacy of the therapy experience?
Well, the loss of a shared physical space is absolutely the most common hesitation people have about telehealth.
Yeah, it feels less official, maybe.
Exactly. But notice how the text addresses this implicitly. It pairs the phrase 100% telehealth directly with the term hyper-compliant.
Ah, okay. So we aren't just talking about a casual FaceTime call with a friend where the connection drops every 2 minutes.
Far from it. Hyper-compliance in telehealth requires really rigorous, legally protected, end-to-end encrypted medical environments.
So it's totally secure.
Yes, the servers cannot harvest your data. The connection is legally bound to privacy. But, beyond just the tech, let's look at the psychological trade-off regarding intimacy.
Okay.
Yes, you lose the physical couch, but what do you actually gain? You completely remove the waiting room anxiety.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Right. You aren't sitting in a public space, awkwardly staring at old magazines, wondering if the receptionist is judging you, or panicking that a coworker might just walk through the door.
Oh, that waiting room dread is so visceral. It's an incredibly vulnerable space where you're just trapped with your own thoughts before the hard work even begins.
It creates a massive spike in cortisol before the session even starts. Telehealth actually shifts the power dynamic.
Guess so.
The therapist is entering your domain. The intimacy isn't lost. It's relocated to an environment where you, the patient, already feel grounded and safe. You get to control the lighting, the temperature, the environment.
You can literally sit on your own couch with your own dog.
Exactly.
Okay, so the text establishes where the care happens basically everywhere you have a secure internet connection. It removes the physical location barrier. But now it really has to answer the most critical question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is on the other side of that screen? And what exactly are they equipped to handle?
Because access is ultimately meaningless if the clinical care isn't appropriately matched to the severity and nature of what the patient actually needs.
Right. And the source document lays out this very deliberate arsenal of care. It highlights a diverse, culturally competent team
Yeah.
of 15-plus licensed therapists. And it specifically lists this alphabet soup of acronyms:
Yeah.
LCSWs, LPCs, LMFTs. On top of that, the services cover individuals, couples, families, teen therapy for ages 13 and up, and life coaching.
That's a very broad spectrum.
It is. Plus, they list specialties ranging from severe acute trauma, PTSD, and grief, all the way to general anxiety, relationship struggles, and everyday stress.
And, breaking down that alphabet soup is vital because those acronyms represent entirely different diagnostic tools.
Okay, walk me through that.
Sure. So an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, they approach your distress by looking at the systems around you: housing, work environments, systemic societal pressures.
Okay, so looking outward a bit.
Right. But in LMFT, the licensed marriage and family therapist, they operate differently. They look at you not as an isolated broken part, but as a gear in a larger family machine. They're trained in systems theory.
Well, that's fascinating. And what about an LPC?
An LPC, or licensed professional counselor, well, they might focus much more heavily on your individual cognitive and behavioral patterns.
Okay, but let me challenge this massive breadth of offerings for a second.
Go for it.
You've got an array of different licenses, you're treating 13-year-olds and adults, and you are covering everything from crippling acute PTSD to, like, general life coaching. Isn't there a huge risk of this practice sounding like a jack of all trades, master of none?
I see what you mean.
Like you're walking into a generic big box retail store of therapy instead of a specialized clinic.
That is the exact skepticism patients bring to large group practices. They fear becoming just a generic number on a clinical assembly line.
Exactly.
But the source text actually anticipates this fear and neutralizes it through the phrase diverse, culturally competent team.
So it's leaning heavily into the fact that it's a collective.
It's relying entirely on the collective model. It isn't claiming that one solitary practitioner possesses the miraculous ability to treat a traumatized teenager at 1:00 p.m. and then seamlessly pivot to executive life coaching at 2:00 p.m.
Right, because that would be unbelievable.
Exactly. By explicitly listing teenagers, family units, and highly specific acute issues like grief alongside stress management, the text is offering deep reassurance.
Gotcha.
It is telling you that they have a deep bench. You aren't getting a generalist who is just guessing. You are getting the specific expert within that network who understands your unique background, your cultural context, or your specific life stage.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not one person trying to play every single instrument. It's a full orchestra, and they just find the specific musician you need.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's take stock of where we are in the journey here. You've overcome the mental hurdle of admitting you need help.
Yep.
You've realized you don't have to navigate Atlanta traffic or drive an hour from your rural town, so the location hurdle is completely gone.
Check.
And you found a culturally competent expert whose specific training matches your exact issue. So the final, and honestly the tallest, thickest brick wall outlined in the source text is the money.
And it always is. The financial barrier consistently ranks as the #1 reason people abandon the pursuit of healthcare in America.
It's so sad, but true.
The fear of financial ruin often entirely outweighs the desire for physical or mental relief.
So what does this text mean for the wallet? Because it does something you almost never see in upfront healthcare communication.
Yep.
It provides exact, hard numbers.
Very rare.
Right. It states clearly, Medicaid equals a $0 copay. 0. And then it lists the major private insurances accepted: Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana, and states that utilizing these results in a cost of just $10 to $40 per session.
Which is wild. Putting the actual price tag directly adjacent to the emotional pitch is a radical departure from standard medical marketing.
It really is.
Usually pricing is hidden behind this massive labyrinth of, call your provider for an estimate disclaimers.
Oh, you know that feeling of opening your mailbox like 3 months after a doctor's visit? You see a letter from your insurance company and your stomach just drops before you even open the envelope.
It's terrifying.
You have absolutely no idea if you owe $20 or $2,000. And that is the exact dread this text is trying to eliminate.
And that phenomenon of surprise medical billing carries a cognitive load that genuinely paralyzes patients. The fear of the unknown bill is frequently worse than the fear of the unknown diagnosis.
Wow, yeah.
By explicitly listing the major providers and actually quantifying that $10 to $40 out-of-pocket range before the patient even clicks contact, the text diffuses the panic of the unknown before it can even take root.
It totally shifts how you budget for your own mental health, too.
How do you mean?
Well, if I think about my own everyday spending, realizing that $10 to $40 a session is essentially the cost of a couple of streaming service subscriptions or like a single Friday night takeout meal.
Puts it in perspective.
It really does. It takes therapy out of the realm of this unattainable luxury for the wealthy. It puts it into the realm of manageable everyday maintenance.
And let's also look at the systemic implications of that $0 copay for Medicaid.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Including that specific detail front and center is a masterstroke in healthcare equity. It removes all the guesswork for the most economically vulnerable populations.
Right, because they might assume a place like this is too expensive.
Exactly. They might assume that a private, specialized telehealth practice is entirely out of bounds for them. They don't have to make some humiliating phone call to ask if sliding scale options are available.
The door is just open for them.
Open in black and white, $0.
No guesswork. So by this point in the text, the progression is undeniably powerful. The psychological avoidance, the geographic distance, the need for customized expertise, the dread of the unknown medical bill, they've all been systematically brought into the light, quantified, and dismantled.
It's very methodical.
Which brings us to the very end of the document. The text has made its case. So what is left?
The only thing left is the heavy lifting of human action.
Oh, right.
The document has stripped away every logical rationalization for avoidance. The ball is now entirely in the reader's court.
And the text states, the only thing standing between you and support is one phone call or one website visit. And then it provides three very distinct, exact avenues for contact.
Giving them options.
Exactly. It lists a phone number, 404-832-0102. It lists a website, architherapy.com. And it provides an email address, support@chitherapy.com. It literally builds three different doors for you to walk through.
And this is such a direct intervention into executive dysfunction.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when a person is deeply depressed or grieving or acutely anxious, the mere thought of speaking to a receptionist on the phone can feel like climbing Mount Everest.
Oh, absolutely. It's just too much.
Right. So it allows you, the person who is already feeling completely overwhelmed, to pick the communication method that causes you the least amount of friction.
Right. So if picking up the phone is too much pressure, you can just send an asynchronous email at 2 in the morning.
Exactly.
And if writing a personalized email feels too vulnerable or formal, you can literally just click on the website and quietly fill out a web form.
It is the application of frictionless design to mental health care access. And it culminates in the final, highly evocative statement of the entire text. Tonight could be the night you choose yourself.
Man, choose yourself. That phrase hits so differently than, like, book an appointment today.
It fundamentally changes the stakes of the action.
It really does.
If we synthesize the entire strategy of this source document, we see how it builds this airtight logical case. It removes time, distance, money, and a lack of specific expertise from the equation. And it leaves the reader with a binary choice.
Right.
By framing that final action as choosing yourself, it turns what is essentially a mundane logistical task like sending an email or making a phone call into a deeply empowering act of self-worth.
Wow.
You are no longer just scheduling a medical service, you are declaring that your well-being inherently matters.
Wow. Okay, well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it is genuinely wild to see the journey we just took through this single piece of source material.
It really is a journey.
We've watched how coping and healing counseling, just through their messaging alone, moves a person from that silent internal hesitation of, maybe things don't have to feel this hard, all the way to the tangible, undeniable realities of $0 Medicaid copays, an entire network of specialized clinical lenses, and 159 county telehealth access.
It charts the entire psychological and logistical trajectory of the patient before they even set foot in the virtual waiting room.
Yeah, and for you listening right now, the biggest takeaway from all of this is that the mechanics of seeking help have fundamentally evolved.
They absolutely have.
The friction is actively being engineered out of the system, whether it's CHC in Georgia or another specialized practice in your own state. The distance between feeling completely overwhelmed and finding actual customized support, it's been shortened to a single website visit.
Yeah.
The massive brick walls you thought were there, they are falling down.
And as we reflect on this evolution of access, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
It builds on that very first assertion in the source text. You already know the answer. If our minds subconsciously know the answers to our deepest needs long before we are brave enough to actually act on them, well, what other areas of your life are currently sitting in that maybe phase?
Oh, that's good.
Right. What else is just waiting for you to finally choose yourself?
That is a really profound question to end on. It brings us right back to that glowing check engine light. You know it's on. You know what it means. Maybe tonight is the night you finally stop driving with the light glaring in your eyes and you just make the call.